Guys, so a really good question that I get asked all the time is, should I pay off my truck faster? Does it make sense? So you find yourself in a situation where you're making good money, you're an owner operator, you have some money saved up. Does it make sense to pay off that truck faster? So you signed a lease agreement, 36 months, 48 months, whatever it is. Should you be throwing double payments into your lease agreement? So I'm gonna quote a famous gazillionaire named Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki is an author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and his number one rule is you must know the difference between an asset and a liability. And by assets, an asset is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. Okay, so let's dissect this a little bit further. So when you have an asset, which is a truck, and that truck is a depreciating asset, does it make sense to throw more money into that truck faster? The answer to the question I'll be answering through this video. So you're gonna be the judge at the end of this video whether or not you should or should not. So let's talk about paying off that truck. So if you bought a truck is $150,000, $160,000. Within 2 or 3 years, that truck is probably worth about $190,000, $95,000. If you buy a brand new truck, it's worth $200,000. Within 4 or 5 years, that truck is only worth about $75,000 or $80,000. That's what we call a depreciating asset. So the one thing you should not be doing is throwing money at a depreciating asset. When you're doing a lease, most of the lease agreements and interest have been charged to term. So when you have a lease agreement and you have your amortization schedule, which will probably look like something like this, and I'll post it up, you have your payments from month 1 to month 48. So throughout this video, I'm going to be referencing this amortization schedule. So in this story here, a driver took $103,000 loan at 7.2%, 48 monthly payments, and is paying $2,500 per month. Okay, so I'm going to post it up over here. Here's the amortization schedule, and I'm always going to be referencing this driver here, an example about payments and at what month, whether he wants to pay off his truck faster or not. So when a driver has a lease agreement, he has a lease agreement for 36 or 48 months. In our example here, we're gonna take the 48 months, okay? And let's pretend like at month number 12, the driver wants to throw in an extra payment of $2,500. So the answer to the question is, does it make sense? That's what we're trying to figure out. Most people, okay, when you're buying a truck, the interest charged is to term. So if you look over here at this beautiful box, the interest made on this deal was $16,000. That number is never going to change. Whether you're going to pay it off faster or slower, you're still going to end up paying $16,000 in interest. Okay, so that's rule number one that you need to be made aware. There are some cases that there are loan agreements out there that it's structured as a loan and not as financing. So you can really, it's like a line of credit, but these line of credits are usually secured under an asset, which is your property or your home, and the interest rates are much lower on line of credit. So you'd be paying around 3 or 4%. So in both scenarios, I truly believe that it does not make sense, and here are my reasons why. So if you have a line of credit, you're paying between 3 to 5%. If you have a lease structure, you've already paid your interest to term. Whether you pay it off in 24 months, in 36 months, or in 48 months, you're still paying that $16,000 interest. So in my videos, I talk a lot about financing and interest rates because 90% of the time, when I look at lease agreements, our hardworking truck drivers are getting taken advantage of. My heart drops when I see finance agreements and drivers being charged between 12 to 18% interest fees. I have created a link below. Whether you're a Canadian driver or an American driver, with a click of a button, you can make these finance companies compete for your business. It's a simple form that would literally take you 20 to 30 seconds, but you can save thousands of dollars. Once you hit submit, this form is going to go to 4 different lenders. Let them compete for your business. So does it make sense to throw another payment in there? So absolutely not, because your $2,500 payment at the end of the 3 years it's a depreciating asset, which means your $2,500 is only going to be worth about $1,500 at the end of the 4 years. So let's try to see what else we can do, and we'll quote Robert Kiyosaki in this because I think this is what he's trying to teach people out there. So what you want to do is you basically want to take your money and not throw throw it into a depreciating asset. You want to throw it in an asset that's going to make you money. So let's roll back 2.5 years and let's pretend like it's 2019 and the driver was faced in the situation where he has an extra $2,500. What should he do? So let's take option number one, which will buy a stock. A stock is an asset. So let's go with the secure stock like Apple, like Tesla, like Google. Well, if this driver was to throw $2,500 in Apple in 2019, he would have tripled up his money. So the $2,500 would have become $7,500. If you, as an owner operator, if you were to take that money, that $2,500, and invest it in Tesla, well, you would have had 20 folds. So 20 folds of $2,500. Sorry, guys. So 20 folds of $2,500, you would have made $50,000 off of your $2,500. Now, if you would have went with a safer stock like Google, you would have made 2.5 times your investment. So 2.5 times of 2.5 times 2,500, you would have made $6,250 would have been your $2,500. So we're comparing on what we're doing with this $2,500. You've already paid interest on this $2,500. Where would you put it? Now, you might come back at me and say, well, you know what, stocks are dangerous. I have to say that, you know, the industry that we're in, and I kind of want to open your mind up a little bit about this. The industry that we're in, we see the same things over and over again. There are certain stocks out there that are not going to change. These companies are only getting bigger and bigger. And which companies am I talking about? So I'm talking about PACCAR, I'm talking about Daimler, I'm talking about Cummins, I'm talking about Penske. These stocks, these companies are not going anywhere. And if you would have put that $2,500 into our industry, which is any one of these companies, because, you know, our trucks, they're our trucks. We either buy Freightliners, Volvos, Cascadias, Kenworths, Peterbilts. So these stocks are not going anywhere. They're going to be here today. They were here 15 years ago when I started in this industry. Some of you guys have been here for 30 and 35 years. You know that Cummins is not going anywhere. In a recent poll that I took out, I think 66% of you guys believe in the Cummins engine and have full faith in that engine. So that engine is not going anywhere. So if we would have invested that $2,500 into these companies 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago, today that money would have been tripled up or quadrupled up. And in some cases, it would have been 5 and 7 folds over. So if we're to take that $2,500 lease payment and put it in our truck, that payment, that $2,500, you're only losing money on it. But if you would have taken that payment and put it into any one of these stocks, now you actually have an asset. Okay, so what would happen to an extra payment over the course of 3 years if you were to put it into a truck? Okay, so over the course of 2.5 years or 3 years, if you were to take your payment number 12, which is right over here, I'm going to highlight it. Okay, and if you were going to put it inside that truck, you're really only making 1 month payment. So you're actually decreasing the duration of your lease, which is this one over here. You're decreasing it from 48 months to 47 months. But if you were to take this $2,500, even if, let's say it was a 12th month, we'll take that as an example. On the 12th month, you have an extra $2,500. If you were to take this $2,500, put it in a stock, and then on the 47th month, you were to withdraw that, if you were to cash in on that stock and pay off that last payment, you would have been 4 or 5 folds better off. So let me just repeat that. I'm going to explain it. Okay. So we're in the 12th month. So right now I'm in the 12th month of my lease agreement and I have an extra $2,500. I have 2 options. What do I do with this money? Do I put it towards my truck or do I put it towards something else, an asset that's going to actually be an asset for me? So if I'm on the 12th month, I have this $2,500. Okay, if I put that payment towards my truck, the only thing that I did is I made my 48 months into 47 months. Okay, if I was to take that $2,500 and I was to put it inside a stock, I was to buy Tesla or Apple or Cummins or whichever one of these companies, if I were to buy their stocks and then I was to wait for 3 years, I would cash in on the 47th month and then I would pay off my 48th payment. Okay, so with any one of these stocks, we would have doubled, tripled, quadrupled our money. And this is what Robert Kiyosaki is talking about. Okay. So you really, really, really want to think twice before you make that extra payment towards your truck. So in conclusion, what do I think? I think that paying off your truck faster is not the right decision. I think that the only thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking off 1 month or 2 months, but your $2,500 is only going to be worth $1,500 at the end of that 48 months. So why not take that money and put it into an actual stock, an asset like a stock, an asset like a home, an asset like a condominium. You can't really buy a condominium with $2,500, and you can't really buy a home with $2,500, but you can start off small. You can start off with an actual asset, and I'm all for buying stocks, especially the stocks that we know have been around for 15 and 20 years, and these companies are not going anywhere, and we can really see the trend of these stocks. We can really see what they've done over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years. A big one I think that is worth looking into is definitely Nikola. Nikola is a stock that I'm hoping does really well, because it's going to be a game changer for our industry. Tesla is going to be a game changer for our industry. What's going to happen to them in 3 years? Well, I can assure you that their stock is not going to fall two-folds, which is what's going to happen to your extra payment if you put it in your truck. It's going to gain, but what is it going to gain? Nobody really knows. Is it going to gain 10%? Is it going to double up? Is it going to triple up? I have no idea. But what I do know is that these companies over here are a safe bet for you to put into. And if you want to go even more conservative and even more safe, then you could put it into the bank stocks. You can put it into Enbridge, into there's a lot into Google, there's a lot of things that you can put your money into that are much safer, that will not give you these returns, maybe a little bit less, but they're definitely unbelievable stocks that I don't see them going away. I mean, we're all into our iPhones. I mean, Apple, do you really think that they're going to fall in the next 5 or 10 years? Do you really think that Google is going to fall in the next 5 or 10 years? I highly doubt it. So is it a safe bet? I mean, should you pay off your truck faster? In my opinion, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people with a lot of comments down below, but I really think that, putting your money, making a second payment is really not the best choice. I really think that you should be looking at putting it into a stock. So guys, one thing I do need you to understand is I am not a financial advisor, okay? I only give my recommendations based on what I see, based on my history, based on my last 15 years working in the trucking industry. My opinions come from from what I've lived through and what I've seen over the years. So you could take this advice, or you could just brush it off, or you can look into the advice that I'm giving you. But I am by no means a financial advisor. I hope you learned something from this video. This is the first time I think I've ever talked about stocks. If you are enjoying this and you want me to come up with more lists of actual safe stocks within our industry, the trucking industry, I'll be more than happy to do it. I guess it'll all depend on your comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, put a comment down below. I read them. I usually respond to all the comments. Just give me a little bit of time, and hopefully you enjoyed this video. I'm Ronen, and I'll catch you in the next one.